Hi, I'm the Michael Myers fanatic. Earlier today, I interviewed film composer Alan Howarth, and there were a few blunders in the interview, such as my smoke detector going off at certain times during the interview, along with Mr. Howarth having to respond to phone calls. Some of the blunders were taken out, but some of them were left in. I wanted the interview to be as authentic as possible. Also, Mr. Howarth did kindly agree to perform the Halloween theme for you guys, but he was unable to do so due to technical difficulties on Skype. So, because he couldn't perform it live, I simply added some of his music into the background of the interview, as I usually do anyway. And I've got an even better treat for you guys. Most of the time, when I do my interviews, they are done by audio only, but for this one, this was a special occasion. You guys will get to see Mr. Howarth as he is talking. Now, I do want to warn you that it is a split screen, but you will get to see him nonetheless. And I want to tell you to go to his website, alanhowarth.com. And I also want to give a shout out to a YouTube channel called Raving Lunatic, who was nice enough to do the intro for this interview. And he also does great Halloween animation. I also want to give a shout out to a website called Halloween Daily News, who possibly might be picking up this interview. Go check them out. They're very nice people. Once again, that's alanhowarth.com, halloweendailynews.com, and the YouTube channel Raving Lunatic. So please enjoy the interview. I'm the Michael Myers fanatic. I approve this message. I will leave my information at the end of the interview to let you know where you can follow me on social media. Thank you very much. I guess I'll introduce you first, and I'll say to everyone listening, I have a special guest on with me today. He is such an inspiration to me. He's the one that got me into the Halloween franchise and playing the infamous theme song. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome legendary film composer Mr. Alan Howarth. Alan, how are you?
Very good. Thanks for having me on your show today. Looking forward to having our discussion.
Thank you for being here. I guess my first question would be, what got you into music?
Well, not to get too far back, but when I was a little kid, 5 years old, my dad had an accordion that was up in the attic, and it just fascinated me. I just remember sitting there playing with the bellows and making the noises, and I had a certain interest in it. So my mom, at 5, got me accordion lessons. With a local TV star. Actually, he was like a cowboy TV star. He thought he was a big deal, and I remember, taking the first couple lessons, and at the time we'd learn, pom 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 pom, and I remember being down in the basement with, in where I would get my lessons. My mom would take me over there, and I'm sitting in the basement, in the room where he gives the lessons, and I've got my little lesson. I finally got 2 hands going. I got the papas and all that other stuff. And hold on one second on that. There we go. And I'm waiting for the teacher and no teacher. And finally, my mom comes in and she goes, and my mom comes in and goes, "We're leaving." I go, "What?" She goes, "We're going right now." Well, that was the end of my accordion lessons. And years later, I found out that my teacher put the moves on my mom.
Wow.
So it's a fun little funny where it started. So, I was now in the 3rd grade. I'm still interested in music, but I was also a painter, drawer, artist kid, and that was kind of my path for most of my education. Was I was going to be an artist, but music was sort of in the background. And so they pass out, give a little test in the 3rd grade, and they say your son has musical talent. You should think about getting a musical instrument. So I looked at all the instruments in the school band, and the only cool one was a saxophone. They had no guitars and pianos, and drums were stupid to me. So I went and learned to play the alto saxophone, and I did that through school as like a hobby while I was being this artist. And then the next episode comes in the junior. I was a junior in high school. I was the president of the art club, and one of the girls in the art club had a boyfriend that had a band, and his name was Dave. And Kathy says, "Hey, would you like to sit in with my boyfriend Dave? He has a band, and they're going to play at this girls' Catholic high school over the weekend, and you just read music." And I said, "Well, sure, cool." So, I went and sat in on that evening, playing dance music like da 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 kind of stuff, and it was fun. It was 3 hours, and at the end of the night, we packed up, and he turned around and he handed me $80, and my eyes went wide, like, wow. Whoa, $80! I'm going for music. Hell with art. I'm in. So Dave's band was growing, and he had a rock band, and they needed a bass player. So I pestered my mother to go down to DeFiore's Music in Cleveland and buy me a $100 bass guitar. And I got my Sears and Roebuck bass amp, and I was geared up to be a bass player. I quickly learned the bass and joined the rock band, and that was kind of it. I got carried away in rock and roll. The bands I were in were very popular in the Northeast Ohio, Cleveland area. One was called the Tree Stumps, which was very popular. And then the Tree Stumps, I met an excellent singer named Woody Leffel, and we started a band called the Renaissance Fair, and we sort of played Doors music and sort of the split between the English invasion and the West Coast music was a blend of what we were doing. And then, those things had, and the original Tree Stumps band then got a producer named Bill Simzik, and Bill Simzik at the time was producing the band that was called Silk at the time, as well as he was also producing Joe Walsh and the James Gang. Simzik went on to produce the Eagles, and he was there when Joe Walsh was at the Eagles. So those are all my buddies from Northeast Ohio land. The next modulation goes to, I didn't want to play cover music anymore. I wanted to play my own original music. We're getting to be in 1971 or so. I made a journey to the West Coast and worked with this jazz band, Weather Report. The sound guy for my original band in Cleveland called Brano signed up with Weather Report. He was now their road guy, house mixer. And I went out and met those guys, came back in Cleveland a little bit later, and then he invites me to go out on tour with the Weather Report about 1976, and I traveled the whole world with them on their heavy weather tour. It was a great experience. So now I was no longer a musician, I was a technician, setting up equipment and keeping, I had this whole fleet of synthesizers that I was setting up. And that's the setup to the next modulation, which is about 1980 now. And I'm in Hollywood. I moved from Cleveland to Los Angeles because Weather Report's stationed in Los Angeles. And the oddest of career changes, this big burly biker buddy of mine named Pax Lemon from Cleveland was now working at Paramount Pictures in a transfer bay, making copies of tapes, and two guys are behind him having a conversation how they need somebody who knows about synthesizers. And he goes, turns around and goes, "Oh man, you got to talk to my buddy Alan, man. He works for Weather Report. He knows all about synthesizers." And they look at him and go, "Weather Report, is that the one at 7 o'clock or 11 o'clock? They don't know what he's talking about. Jazz band." But nonetheless, he gave him my number. I went down and met these guys. It was Richard Anderson and Stephen Flick, and they were starting on the sound effects for the first Star Trek movie, Star Trek the Motion Picture. And I made a little audition tape for them. They said, "Well, show us what you can do." So they said, "Make us the sound of the Starship Enterprise going from warp 1 to warp 7. There was a scene in the movie that did this. And I made this, back in my little dining room studio with a little 4-track tape recorder and a Prophet 5 synthesizer. And I dialed up this sound effect, which, it's still music, but it's now sound, and turned it in. And that became the sound of the Starship Enterprise. I got the job. And from then on, I was in the movie business as a sound effects guy.
Did you know... what's his name? Did you know Dwight Little or Alan B. McElroy? Because they're from Cleveland.
Yeah, no, I obviously I met Dwight. I didn't know Dwight Little at the time, but he showed up as Halloween 4, so I met him later.
Okay.
So the cherry on the cake is the film editor from that first Star Trek movie, a fellow named Howard Ramsey, his next assignment was a movie called Escape from New York. And I had been giving Todd my music tapes and promoting myself, trying to get traction. So he knew I knew about music, and he liked what I did. So he said, John Carpenter might be looking for somebody else to work with. You guys should get together. So I had John Carpenter come over to my little dining room studio in Glendale. We sat down and I played him some music and some sounds. At the end of the session, he goes, "Yeah, let's do it." And that was it. I was now scoring with John Carpenter. Our first movie was Escape from New York. At the end of Escape from New York, he was going to go off and do The Thing, and they wanted to make a sequel to Halloween, with Halloween 2. And just like a class assignment, he casually, we're mixing Escape from New York. He told me, they want to make another Halloween. I don't have time for it. So, Alan, you're going to do Halloween. It was like an assignment. So he handed me Halloween 2 as like, I'm not going to be here. You do it.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that. That was the next question that I had written down. I was going to say, tell us how you got involved with Halloween 2.
Yeah.
I've always wondered that.
Yeah. So that was, it was like John was the absentee composer because obviously I inherited all his great Halloween themes from the first Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And now, the idea was to use that music for Halloween 2. So a lot of it, I used his original recordings as the basis, and then I overdubbed additional synthesizer parts to increase the production value, make it bigger and a little more horror movie, et cetera, et cetera. So if you listen to Halloween 1 and Halloween 2, the difference is Alan adding his synthesizer colors to it. And there was a little bit of music that I created that was, we didn't have it yet, and I had to create some more music for the movie. So that got us started. And so then, meanwhile, John's busy on The Thing, which is this challenging production. He had to go to, up to Alaska and Vancouver, and they were in the freezing north, and it was just super challenging production. And so at the end of The Thing production, he came by one day and he says, "Hey, Alan, help me do a couple other cues. I had Ennio Morricone do a score. I got a lot of music from him, but I need a couple more things." So John and I had one session where we did some music that was a couple cues in The Thing that kind of sound like Christine a little bit. They're the drony stuff, like when Fuchs and they burn the guy and outside the helicopter and stuff like that. And they're about 2/3 of the way to the movie. And then I also did some sound effects for David Udall, who was the sound designer, editor from Escape from New York. I had introduced him, John, so I got him on board with John at Escape from New York. He now stayed with John. John's very loyal. He hires the same people over and over again, providing you do a good job, of course. And so I did some sound effects for the dogs when they were turning into aliens and stuff like that. Some interesting stuff. So I had a little taste there. But that's all done now, and we get to Halloween 3. And now, John didn't want to do any more Halloweens. So he handed the whole thing off, the project off to Tommy Lee Wallace, who, directed it. But John still wanted to do the music because, John always used to say, for him, doing the music for his movie was like being on vacation. There's so much work involved in being the producer and the director and the casting and the production and going out and shooting on location, et cetera, et cetera. Now the movie's done. It's in editing. It's almost finished, and he gets to sit down and be the composer. And for him, that was just fun. So he wanted to do the music for Halloween 3. So he and I sat down in my same studio, this little dining room studio in Glendale. Nothing real fancy, no stuff, but I had all the gear. I've always been a gearhead, so I had all the stuff. And so he would just come over, and I'd have all the stuff working for him, and that was all he needed. And we sat down and...
Sorry, I wanted to know, did you ever think about Michael Myers, even though he was not in the film? Did you ever want to just go, did you ever get tempted to do that?
No, not at all. In fact, at the end of Halloween 2, Michael Myers was supposed to be dead.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard people say that.
So at that time, the idea was John and Deborah wanted to move on to other Halloween themes, still doing Halloween, but no more Michael Myers. So Halloween 3 was the first departure from Michael Myers into Halloween. Well, when they did that, the movie on itself is pretty okay. I mean, if you didn't call it Halloween and you called The Season of the Witch, it's a fine movie. Yeah. But at the end of it, everybody goes, "What happened to Michael Myers?"
Yeah. I've grown to appreciate it over the years.
Yeah. So at the end of Halloween 3, the fans go, "Where's Michael Myers?" So John and Deborah, had a meeting with the original producers, Mustafa Akkad, and he was the original guy. And he says, "Well, look, I want to make more Michael Myers." And John and Deborah said, "Well, fine, you can do that. Just send us our check." So at that point, we get to now Halloween 4, and I was approached by Mustafa Akkad to do the music for Halloween 4, because I knew how to do it, of course. I knew everything. And so I remember I was sitting in the studio one afternoon, and I didn't want to, create any sort of bad vibes, because John was my buddy. Say, "Hey, John, they called and they want me to do the music for Halloween 4. What do you think?" He says, "If you want to do it, go for it. I'm done with that stuff." So I've inherited Halloween 4, 5, and 6 as the composer for those 3 sequels, which kind of make the next 3-pack. So there's Halloween 1, 2, 3. Then there's Halloween 4, 5, 6. And then when it got to Halloween 7, it was a whole new bunch of people, a bunch of ideas. So at that point, I was pretty much done as a member of the Halloween music team. And, lots of other people have taken their shot at it, and God bless them for doing it.
Have you ever thought about going to another horror franchise?
Sure. Somebody invites me. I have a group out of Pittsburgh, actually, that have a similar Halloween franchise idea called Darkenwell. That still needs to be produced, but they've got the scripts ready to go, and I'm on board with them. They're working on the financing and putting it together, and that has a lot of sequels in it. So let's hope, wish them success, and hope for them to do well, and I'll help them in any way I can to get their thing going.
What's the most difficult thing about being a composer? I mean, I know it's got to be difficult because I play myself, so
it's funny. When I was in the band business, I was making songs, 3-minute songs, right? And I was okay, but I never got a hit or anything like that. But when I was asked to do the sound effects for Star Trek, I just remember going, I know what the sounds are for that, just by seeing at the images, because I was already a visual artist. When I look at images, I already know what the sound is. It's automatic for me. So it's very easy for me to do sound or sound effects or music for movies. So just by watching the movie, I know what it is. It just comes to me. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's just a gift or a talent. And for the last, almost 40 years now. I started in 1980, so yeah, it's 2020, 40 years of doing it. I've been around the best in the business. I worked with John Carpenter. I worked with Steven Spielberg. I worked with Zemeckis. I worked with all these other talented directors and film editors. Being around Michael Cohen from Spielberg, or Frank Marshall, and being in the room and watching these people do their thing. You learn. It's like being in the old days in the guilds where Michelangelo would have all the little guys that would help him, and they would become their own thing eventually. I'm one of those people. I'm a subset of everything I experience.
Well, which was your favorite Halloween film to work on?
Well, for me, I was exciting at Halloween 4 to restart and sort of grab the helm and go in my own direction. Obviously, I inherited John Carpenter's notes, but it was now up to me to produce the music, play the score, and address the film that way. And that was Dwight Little. And because I'd already had experience, he kind of let me go. He just stopped by from time to time, seeing how I was doing, going, "How about this or how about that?" And I remember Mustafa Akkad just saying, "Make sure I have that Halloween music every time you see Michael Myers."
Yeah.
Dun 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 dun. That goes with that character. You don't see Michael without that. At least when he's in a certain way. Obviously, there's other stuff. There's 3 main Halloweens. Obviously, the main one, dun 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 dun. Then there's this one which you call the Laurie theme, which is sort of the lingering da bum bum.
Yeah.
Da bum bum. And then there's one we call the Shape Attacks, which is when Michael Myers is going after somebody with a knife, going bum 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 bum. And so those are the three components that Carpenter created for the first movie, that if you're going to do a Halloween, you got to do that stuff. It just goes with the movie.
So if you could give a specific reason on why you left the franchise, what would it be? What would your specific reason be?
They didn't invite me back.
Oh, I guess that's reason enough. I mean, I guess maybe they didn't want to tie it to the other ones because H2O sort of pretended like the other ones didn't happen.
Yeah, yeah. It was a reset. It was a restart. And what was our guy that did the H2O music? I forget now. Is that my phone? A second. Sorry. Getting all kinds of calls from Southern California Edison today saying, reduce your power, reduce your power. It's a heat wave out here, so
yeah,
everybody's burning up the electricity. So I digress. It was a departure. So all the old crew was maybe referred to, but the idea was they were going to have all their new people, and they brought Jamie Lee back, and H2O was a whole other restart. And they, and even if and H2O had its whole thing where it was scored orchestrally,
yeah,
and then they screened it, and it didn't satisfy what they wanted, even though he did a great job, and so they went and started using some music cues out of the Scream movie from Marco Beltrami.
yeah, and that's the thing I wanted to talk to you about. You see, and I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but on my channel, I'm known for being a straight shooter. I really didn't like the H2O score, with the exception of the main theme. That was okay, but the rest of it, I said, this is not Alan. This is not, like, it just doesn't work.
I'll agree. They should have called me. I would have done a good job for him. But
I agree.
We now get into relationships, and in Hollywood, you can imagine the word ego.
Yeah.
And so I think their egos got in their way. They didn't do as good a production as they could have based on some ego things that they were taking partition in. Yeah.
Well, if I were making Halloween movies, I certainly would call you. You would be my one and only composer next to John himself. So.
Well, exactly, and that's what I was going to say. Except for John. So when they went to these last two Halloweens, John's geared up, and he works now with his son Cody and his godson Daniel, and the three of them are a little team. So they've got their own Halloween production. And again, John enjoys doing the music, so why would he not want to do it? He created it. So again, I wish them well. I wish I was there, but they got their own thing.
Well, what do you think about the composers that came after you in the franchise? Like, you got Danny Lux, he did Resurrection, and then you got Tyler Bates, he did the Rob Zombie films. What do you think about those guys' work?
Well, Tyler's become a very big composer, so that was his beginnings with that. So he did a good job. He did a good job. He brought the guitar into the Halloween Rob Zombie ones, made it more rock, which I enjoyed. And now he's a big deal. He's on his own, so he got launched from that.
And maybe I'm just biased, but I would rather that it would be either you or John, or I don't know. I guess it could be somebody else, but I guess I would rather it just be you or John. It can't be anybody else for me. But
I appreciate that, and I'll agree with you because we established what it's supposed to sound like.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you're a new composer, and you've got to step up to the plate. And if you just do what we did, well, then why are you there? So everybody's got to make it their own thing. They got to own it. But the owning is, did we like what they did with it? And the answer is, well, kind of the original stuff was the best.
And here's the thing: I talked to Ellie Cornell last year. She was on the channel, and it's, again, not trying to be disrespectful to the new people, because I would love to meet them and talk to them the way I'm talking to you. But it's just not the same. It's not the same without you guys. I'm biased, but it's simply not the same. It's just not.
Sure. Agreed. But they've taken franchises and given a rebirth. Look what they did to Star Trek, the Next Generation. Eventually, if they do a good job and they own it, you can go farther. So this last trilogy, the latest Halloween productions from Blum, they're doing a good job, and they made money, so they're not going to stop them. And they got 2 more planned.
Yeah.
So that'll be hopefully the final, but we'll see.
We'll see.
If you can't kill them, then What do you do? What do you do with Michael Myers? You have him start appearing in other people's movies? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, as a fan, I'm big with nostalgia. So when I heard your music, I told all my viewers on my YouTube channel. I said this guy takes me back to what it was like to be a kid on Halloween. You remind me of making those little paper ghosts in school. Everybody remembers the paper ghosts. Come on now, you remember paper ghosts and how you go play in the leaves and you got the pumpkin garbage bags and you put the leaves in there and
Yeah.
it feels like Halloween. You say Michael Myers is going to jump out any second now, even though he's not real. But your music makes it feel like he could be real.
Oh, sure. Well, we have the same situation with Santa Claus, right?
Right. See, but with this new thing, and I'm not just attacking Blumhouse because I got to be careful what I say, but I'm biased against anyone that isn't you or John. So,
well, sure. I mean, there was the Beatles, and then everybody did solo after. It was never the Beatles again. It was there was magic there that happened at the time, and also I had this discussion with somebody else. At the time, we all had passion for what we were doing.
Exactly, and I was gonna say that. Like, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm just so enthusiastic. You guys loved what you were doing, and that's what I talked to Ellie Cornell about. You loved what you were doing. You spoke so fondly of each other because I have the special features on my DVDs and Blu-rays, and the way you guys talk about each other, you have nothing but nice things to say about each other.
We were all friends, yeah. We were all friends at the time. It wasn't a job.
Yeah, I said that's so
cool.
Yeah, So who's your favorite composer? Do you have a favorite film composer?
Well, there's a couple of guys that are, the ultimate for me is Jerry Goldsmith.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he was, and I got to meet him and spend some time with him, so I had some personal Jerry Goldsmith experience, which then definitely moves you farther along the way of liking somebody. James Horner was also a good buddy. I worked with him on his very first score, Battle Beyond the Stars, so I knew him through his career, and he came back to Star Trek, so I knew him because of Star Trek. Personally, I like Hans Zimmer. I think he's really great. And then, the other guys do good jobs. What's our guy? But there's a lot of people that do a good job right now. So, God bless them for what they do. John Debney's another guy he's a buddy that I really enjoy. And then just as far as musical influences, I was a big Pink Floyd guy. Pink Floyd was a home run for me when I was a kid, as well as Genesis and Beatles, obviously. But I wasn't like a Stones guy, or I wasn't like and the other band was The Who. I mean, the other band that influenced me. So Pink Floyd, Who, Beatles, Genesis, and King Crimson were probably my favorites of what I had in my record collection and listened to all the time. And then when I got to the 80s, I was on my own thing. So, I'm very blessed that people now hire me to be me, as opposed to a young composer which is going out and he has to sound like Jerry Goldsmith or Hans Zimmer or whatever, and sort of do a budget version of the big guys.
Yeah,
I get to be hired to be me for whatever that is. I'm just finishing a movie right now called Cosmic Dawn. It's a movie out of Toronto. I actually just finished the last couple of days. It's a really nice movie. It's an alien encounter movie where the storyline is that this girl's mother gets abducted early on in the movie, and she lives her whole life without the mom and wants to get back to see the mom, and eventually she runs into some people that appear to be a cult that they're into. The day the aliens return, we start thinking everything's crazy, and at the end of the movie, the ship shows up and takes them away.
Well, when I played my keyboard back in 2005, I have a better one now, not as good as yours, but when I played mine back in 2005, I was watching a little mini featurette with you in it from 2001. You did a little interview in 2001, and then when you got done, I guess they wanted you to play the theme, while the little documentary was ending, and it had the end credits and everything. And then I admit, I tried to imitate you. I tried to literally play it the way you were playing it. Then I said, this sounds like crap. I can't I can't do this. I mean, I know how to play the theme now, but I wanted to be Alan Howarth and John Carpenter. So,
Well,
um,
you know, back to the combination of John and I. John, two things. One, John enjoyed the self-contained production of just he and I in the studio. I had all the toys, I had all the gear. A couple times I'd mentioned to John technical things, and he says, I don't even want to know about the technology. That's your job. You know, I'm just here to make my movie. So, you know, he would be very comfortable that I made it all work and kept it all in tune and kept it all working. He just had to sit down and watch his movie and play the keyboard. And
no,
every now and then we play guitars and basses, you know, a little stuff. But I was the producer, if you want to look at it from that way, for John Carpenter. So all the sounds, and back to what you're talking about, it's what it sounds like. All the sound palette, the noises that came out of the computer, out of the synthesizers in the time, and now computers later, are all pretty much my thing. And remember, I was a sound designer, so my expertise is in sound and sound colors and textures. And at the same time, I get to sit in a room with John Carpenter and watch him score his own movies. So I watched the master of horror create his own music. So I certainly learned from him how to keep it simple. And that's one of the things, you know, you get to the big orchestral things. These are very amazing musical compositions with lots of counterpoint and textures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which is great. It's the big Hollywood sound. But all we needed was the synthesizer sounds that we did, and they match the images of John Carpenter, as you say. When you hear them, when you see Michael Myers, you want to hear that music. When you hear the music, you want to see Michael Myers. They're married together. They're one thing.
yeah. And why do you think the Halloween theme is so popular?
It's so simple. You know, kind of anybody can play it.
Yeah,
When I meet young people, they're all excited to play the Halloween theme for me to show me they can play it. Much like when I was a little kid, the big thing on piano you could play was chopsticks, right? Bum, bum,
yeah.
bum, 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 bum. Well, now they go bum, 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 and they feel like they're playing music. And the answer is they are.
Yeah, yeah. See, the problem is though. I think my parents probably would hate the fact that I discovered you because I think I made my mom's hair turn gray by playing the main theme so much in the house because I had the keyboard turned up loudly and
Oh, sure.
yeah. So I
Well,
think
your mom put up with you.
yeah. I guess my final question would be, if given the opportunity, would you be willing to return to the franchise? I mean, you had to know that question was coming.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'd love to, but like I say, they're not calling, so it's on them, not me.
Yeah, and that's what I always tell people.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
there.
and again, John Carpenter's sitting in the chair right now, so I think it's kind of over.
Yeah, there are a lot of things I would like to do with Halloween, and I say, well, Malik, he knows where to find me. I want to write a movie for them, but oh well, if Daniel Ferens did it, why can't I, right?
Yeah, yeah, no. Well, remember, there's two things about Hollywood. You have to arrive here talented. That's a given, and then
Yeah,
it's who you know.
I guess you have a point there. I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have anything around you? Like, is there any way you could play something? I don't know if they could hear it, but is the keyboard on or?
Um, I could do something fairly quickly here, probably.
Yeah, like the main theme. Could you do that really quickly? I don't know if they'd be able to hear it, but you can give it a shot.
I got hold on. I got something else here on the computer. I have to save it before we do anything else.
And if I can ask, do you do music for free or do you charge for that kind of thing? Like if someone said, "Hey, would you play Halloween for me and send me like an MP3?" Would you charge them for it or?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I'm a person who's for hire. I'm a
Yeah,
professional. Do you go to a doctor's office and say, "Hey, be a free doctor for me?" No.
that's true. All right, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. And so I'm definitely willing to put out the money, but I'm glad you're at least going to give me a sample of your work for free here today.
1 second. I got to put something up here. Oh, wait, another track. Yeah. So So just as for the people that are technical out there that care about this stuff, I use Logic as my main sequencer, and then all that is mixed down and transferred to another program called Pro Tools. And then Pro Tools is sort of in the Hollywood world, that's sort of the common currency. That's the equivalent of dollars. Everybody understands Pro Tools. You come up with all the other stuff, and it's all good technology, but the dub stages, the industry itself has adopted. I'm not hearing anything. 1 second. Oh, all right. It's not going to work because we got the sound tied up on the Skype, and I can't get the sequencer to come out. I apologize. It was a good idea, but it's not going to happen.
All right. Well, that would have been so awesome, and maybe one of these days you can tell me how much you charge, because I would love to hear you play. Your music is just
you can. Yeah, everything's on CDs and it's all on downloadables, man. You can hear all kinds of stuff that I've done.
But I guess
20 soundtrack albums already, so there's plenty to listen to.
Yeah, but even so, there's nothing like watching a chef at work in the kitchen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I got it. No, I was thinking to do some stuff on YouTube. That would be what you're talking about, and also
love that.
Also start talking to people, because so many young musicians, and we're all attracted to music when we're young, especially the guys who want to be in a band and stuff like that. But then what do you do with it? And the answer is you can make a career out of what you know, but you have to provide a professional service. It's not about being high and hanging out in bars and drinking beer. You now have to get yourself organized. You have to be able to market yourself. You have to deliver on schedules and on times. You have to work with creative people and not be a pain in the butt. And you have to, that's your relationship building. Remember, everybody's talented, but it's who you know and who you know who knows who. It's like who you know, and then also who you know who they know.
Yeah.
And you have to do it in a way that you get referred as a recommendation. You can't be a pain in the butt and say, well, will you introduce me to da-da-da? I mean, Steven Spielberg, can I get my script to him? The answer is no, I'm not going to do that. Yeah.
I like you. I have to admit, you're blunt. I like that.
If I'm calling up Steven Spielberg, it's for me, not for you.
That's right. Yeah, you don't beat around the bush.
Yeah. I mean, and one of the rules is, it's a cliche, but you only get one bite out of that apple.
That's true.
If I'm going in, I'm not going in for a favor for you. I'm going in for something that I got that's important, and I'm going to get his attention for about 20 minutes, and then I'm either gone or he says, "Yeah, that's cool, let's do it." So, But the other thing I'll just add to sort of all the other fans and the musicians and the budding composers, the technology is so dominant now that you really need to learn the technology. And it's all on a laptop, even on an iPad now. And really the fertile ground, the area for growth is video games. Scoring for video games is really the new place. I mean, consider this. I'll give you a quick thing. They make Star Trek, the next Star Trek, whatever it is, and it makes, they have to invest $500 million, and they put it out there, and 6 months later it makes $1 billion, right? Doubles its money.
Mm-hmm.
They turn around and they do a next Star Trek video game for $25 million, and it makes $500 million on its first day.
Wow. It's
just a totally different dynamic, and especially with this craziness, with everybody having to stay home and be on the internet and all this other stuff. You really have to be savvy with the technology and work with it. But the technology is enabling a whole new form of art. In fact, I was with a company the last 5 years called Magic Leap, L-E-A-P, Leap, Magic Leap.
Yeah.
And they've created a thing called mixed reality or augmented reality. And so basically you put on some goggles, and you put the goggles on and you see laser projections right in the room with you. I mean, it's like there's stuff there, but it's not there. You see it in 3D. And I was onboarding to be a consultant on the software for the music and sound design. While you've got these, let's say you've got a little character dancing around on your table, what does he sound like? What does his footsteps sound like? And as you turn your head, it's all located in space, so it all has to be panned correctly. It was really a fun project, and it still hasn't even hit the market yet because the market's funny right now. But in the future, watch for Magic Leap. They've got something really special.
Well, Mr. Howarth, it's been a pleasure having you on. I really wish that it would have worked because I wanted to surprise them, because they love Halloween. And
But it's just because we're on the computer and Skype has got the sound engine tied up. I can't feed the Skype with the sound of the internal. It's a busing issue right now. So sorry about that. But
it's okay.
Life in the big city. Had we thought about it in advance, I may have prepared for it. But just dropping right in now, not happening.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for giving me your time. I really appreciate it. I know I sort of called out of the blue. You're probably like, who the hell is this?
Well, everybody's got to start somewhere, and I'm glad to share. And just as a little plug for me, alanhowarth.com is my website. I have CDs and LPs and music books that are all available in my store. I autograph everything that's there, either personalized or just for signature, and ship everywhere. And as another little plug, I'm actually playing a drive-in theater concert in Middleton, New York this Labor Day weekend on September 5th at a drive-in theater, and we're gonna screen we're gonna screen Army of Darkness, The Thing, and Halloween 3 that night, a horror movie fest, and I'm gonna play a live show. So that's coming up on September 5th.
See, now you're telling me these things, and I'm not able to leave my home, and you're going to tell me about it. This.
Well, the people in Middleton will make out, so let them know. It's about an hour outside of New York.
Dangling the carrot in front of me, sir. Dangling the carrot.
All right. Well, you got a car. You can get a car. I mean, this whole idea of the drive-in theater. Think about it. Nobody has to leave their car.
That's true.
They've got, they've now broadcast the sound on a local FM station, so you use the sound in your car for the sound system. You don't have to use that funky little squawky speaker anymore in the window. So it's a good sound, and so I'm going to play the concert, and everybody's car is going to be their own personal sound device, and do a live show. So that'll be fun.
All right. Well, thanks for being on today. And if I can, I will try to get this to bloodydisgusting.com. That way it can get out there more, and because they're a popular website, and then more people can learn about your website, and I get a ton of views. Everybody wins, No,
I appreciate that. Yeah, and send me an email with a link to your show so I can put it on my Facebook and have people listen there.
All right. Thank you so much. And hopefully we can work out a financial deal where I send you some cash and you play a little something for me,
Cash is king in the world.
That I'm learning that, sir. Thank you for being on.
Sure. All right.
Well, I want to thank you guys for watching my interview with Alan Howarth. I really enjoyed having him on. Follow me on social media and go to those websites I mentioned at the beginning, alanhowarth.com, halloweendailynews.com, and the YouTube channel, The Raving Lunatic. I'm the Michael Myers Fanatic. I approve this message.